Welcome to the ManCode Podcast, the place where men get true answers and solid solutions for everyday life. Your hosts, Jay Calaway and Steve Neese, explore topics to help and to challenge today's man in navigating life with tried and proven principles. These podcasts focus on 4 different hats men wear: leader, husband, father, and priest. Let's tune in.
Episode 1, all wool and a yard wide.
My dad was a pastor, and he always had this term, and I guess it was a old term, but I remember him preaching an entire message on this, was it's all wool and a yard wide. And when and basically I never understood what it meant, but he would say that. And he would say things like, he would say things like that and then just go on. And it was of that era, but then I think he finally got to a place where it's like, okay, that's an old term. Nobody understands what it meant. And basically it was that 100%. All wool, 100%, and a yard wide, full measure. Did you just make these?
Yep.
I love that. See,
I had 3 drums left over from what we made years ago.
Yeah.
Finally got rid of my storage unit.
Oh, you did?
And I had one in my shed that I was going to do something with.
Yeah.
But I made that taller table with one of those.
Yeah.
And so I bent plywood to try to get it go around it, and I kept breaking it.
Yeah.
So I didn't have the patience or the tools or the time. So
I love this.
when I went to there, they had 1x2s with a rounded corner, so I made sure that they all were this way.
Where did you get that at?
These
The
1x2s?
Yeah, with the rounded corner.
Menards.
I'm going to check that out.
The cheapest furring strip, cheapest piece of wood you can buy at Menards.
Yeah.
So an 8-foot piece was $1.32.
Right.
And I got 4. 10-foot piece was double the price.
That's cool.
And I would have gotten 5 out of the deal. So basically, each stick cut here is 27 cents.
Wow, that's way cool.
And there's 40 of them on this around this table.
Well, I'm doing my whole table and bar thing outside. So the seats have caved in.
Okay.
That mesh stuff. I mean, we've had them for 20 years or more, and so the seats have caved in. So instead of going and buying a whole new set or whatever, I'm just cutting that seat out and I'm putting in the strips of wood.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna stain it. So I was looking at, do I want to do like red oak, or do I just want to do something like a pine, and then putting in some coating so it will stay. So I haven't quite decided. I went ahead and I got like a red oak / 1x2s, but they're not rounded like that. I was going to round the corners.
No, they're easy enough to round with the router tool and everything like this. But to get the pine ready, when I saw that they had enough to do what I needed to do, I just bought 2 bundles and it did exactly what I needed it to do.
Yeah, so I like that look, and so those seats, I'm just going right along the curvature of the frame.
Okay.
I'm ripping that out, and then I'm just going to take some nice brads and just drill down into the frame of the seat, because it's basically what they did is they took a coping and put the coping through the little channel that had the mesh. Well, when the mesh all gave way, that coping's still in there. All I got to do is either go it out or just take a drill, put little holes all the way down, and then I'm going to put like nice brass heads, go all the way down, and then just put a nut on the bottom on each end, and it's just going to go all the way through, and it'll be a wooden seat.
Well,
and then if I need to, I can just put a cushion on top or whatever.
Okay. Is there framework over the seat part, or is it just open?
This is open. So anyway, so that's what my plan is so that, because they kind of curve, with your whole seat kind of curves. So I just figure if I take the 1x2s and just put them straight on and then go all the way back with it, and then it'll be a wooden base on the seat.
Right. Yeah, because I was thinking if they had if you could put a support across it this way, you could actually get like white PVC 1x4s.
Oh, that's not a bad idea.
And you cut them down, and the same stuff they make, there's recycled plastic and stuff. You can buy that board. You could actually buy decking, composite decking.
Oh, yeah, composite. I was looking at that too, and they just didn't have like the real thin stuff. They had more of like the 6-inch, everything else.
Yeah.
Which, on that note, Isn't that like what just guys do? We get excited about making seats. I mean, really, I'm
Yeah.
not sure what that has to do with man code, but
Well-
I'm just saying. In fact, the other day, so we're over visiting my daughter and my son-in-law, and we're in Kentucky, and we're celebrating our grandkid's birthday, right? And so there's this big package that comes from Amazon. I was thinking about that as I was coming into this. And so I was sitting there and I said, "Oh, you guys got a big package? Is that, you know?" So I kind of got excited because I thought maybe the girls were getting something because it was their birthday, right? And so Jonathan goes, "No, that's for me." And he just takes it and he puts it in his bedroom and that's it. And so we didn't see anything until, I think it was until the next day or something like this. And it was after, oh yeah, it was the next day, it was Saturday. And all the girls leave, they're doing this girl thing and the little babies, they're in bed. And so it's just Jonathan and I, and he pulls it out. He goes, "You want to see what I got?" And I said, "Yeah." He pulls out an ironing board. And he goes,
Okay.
literally, I'm not kidding you. He literally says to me, I said literally way too many times, but anyway, he definitely says to me, "You know you're getting old."
Rule number 1.
Turn off your freaking phone. I love that.
Rule number 1.
Man code rule number 1: do not even bring your phone into the podcast.
Okay.
Now,
So now he goes into the room and he brings it out and he says, "You want to
opens
see
it
what
up.
I got?"
Yeah, and he opens this up and he's got an ironing board and he says, "I am so excited." He goes, I haven't had an ironing board. My wife just she goes, "The bed is just fine." He goes, "No, you have to have an ironing board." So he goes on this entire I think theology would be a little bit sacrilegious on it, but he goes on this theology of ironing boards and how you have to have an ironing board for your shirts and everything else. And finally he pauses for a minute and he goes, "Whoa, so this is what it's like getting old." Getting excited. I thought about that. We're talking about how I'm going to build my chairs. You're talking about how you build this stool. And he's talking about iron. There's no telling what men will sit there and talk about, but hopefully we get around to the point at some point.
That's funny. Yeah, when I think of an ironing board, I don't think of I've got to have one.
No.
I've looked at many and said, how can I make that into something else? And how do I hide that? How do I get rid of it? That type of a thing. And I'm not even sure Bonnie even uses an ironing board anymore.
Well, you know what's funny about that is my mom hated ironing, hated it with a passion. And that was part of my growing up is that, you know, my mom and dad, when I was a kid, of course, they bought my clothes and everything else. I started getting to a certain age that I wanted my own style. You know, so I went out and I would go and get my own not ironing, but I'd go get my own shirts. And I'll tell you what, my mom got so mad one day. She comes back and I'd bought this shirt that I just thought was fine. And I knew, you know, this is when Vicki and I were dating, my wife. And I mean, I'm looking at this and it was 100% cotton. And I'm like, I look fine in this. I know I do and everything. And my mom comes back and she throws it and she goes, "You need to take that back." And I said, "Why, Ma? I'm not taking it back. I look good." And she says to me, "I will not iron that shirt that's 100% cotton." And I didn't, up until that point, I had no idea what permanent press or anything was. And I found out that day that if I wanted to dress like I wanted to, I was going to have to iron. So there's my man code story. I'm not even sure it's a good one, but it is at least one. That's how me coming a man in my own household is. I had to do my own ironing.
Well, I learned over the years that cotton is my thing too. It's just something about comfort. It's not that we want to make somebody else do the work or we want to do extra work.
Right.
It's just something about comforting. It's something about cotton. So I've learned to live with wrinkled collars. You know, I forget what they call this thing here. Starts with a T. But anyway, you guys can help me out if you know what it is. But anyway,
put it in the comments if you know what it is. I just wore my T-shirt.
All I know is I like it, and I'll wear it wrinkled. It's worth it to me just to have 100% cotton.
Yeah,
cotton's my friend.
Yep.
And there's just something about cool, soft cotton.
You know, on that thought, my dad always had, and my dad was a pastor, and he always had this term, and I guess it was a old term, but I remember him preaching an entire message on this. Was it's all wool and a yard wide. And when and basically I never understood what it meant, but he would say that, and he would say things like he would say things like that, and then just go on. And it was of that era, but then I think he finally got to a place where it's like, okay, that's an old term. Nobody understands what it meant. And basically, it was that 100%, all wool, 100%, and a yard wide, full measure. And I don't know about you, but as far as I see this whole thing on being the man code, is that we see men. The basic code could just be that, all wool and a yard wide, 100% full. The Bible talks about it as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. We go on down just a litany of all things, but the righteousness, the integrity, the character. When you walk into to the family, they don't have to question what they're going to get that day,
right?
Because it's going to be all wool, and then that yard wide is that full measure. It's going to be the full measure. You're not going to like that that 1 by 2 we were talking about. That's really what is it? It's like a 3/4 of an inch by 1.5 inch. Because it's not full. They call that the nominal. I think it's called the nominal measurement.
The finished look.
So when you're really buying, they want to tell you you're buying a 2x4, but you're really buying a 1.5 by 3.5, and it's not fully there. And maybe that's kind of why we're doing this, is because we need to see some men that are really 2x4 full measure.
We used to build houses with real 2 by 4 inch wood, and now you can't even match that up with today's wood. There's a couple things that I want to look at in this, and one of them, I see 4 aspects of a man. We tell men they need to be the priests of the home, but we haven't given a good picture of what that looks like.
Yeah.
We tell them be a good father. We don't really know what that looks like.
Right.
Some of these kids today, they're growing up and have kids, and we're 2 generations away from kids having kids in raising them, and they never had a dad in their life.
Right.
And then to be the leader of the home, that you ask 100 men what that looks like, and you're going to get 100 different answers.
Right. Yep.
And then you got the priest, the husband, the father, and the leader, those 4 aspects. But here's part of the problem. We ran across this issue Sunday as we were having a discussion. I'd made a comment in our conversation after the sermon, discussion time, and that was we used to, when I grew up, I was told that we couldn't do mixed bathing.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay?
Yeah, I'm with you there.
But yet the people on the east and west coast who had their beaches and everything, they could do mixed bathing. They're not going to hell, but because I'm in the Midwest, I'm going to hell for doing the same thing they're doing.
I know.
Okay?
I've said many times, what was wrong 25 years ago or 50 years ago when we were growing up is now all of a sudden right. So my question is when did they have the collab in heaven?
Yeah.
And said, okay, it's not wrong anymore, and who told us that it was not?
Exactly.
I'm like, seriously, I don't know. But
well, it gets even worse from that, which is another reason why I think this man code is going to be a big deal.
Yeah.
And it is a big deal. We had a young man sitting in there looking at me. What do you mean mixed bathing? You take baths with girls?
Yeah. All wool and a yard wide. Have no idea.
No idea what mixed bathing meant.
Yeah.
And I mean, these swimsuits used to be called bathing suits.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know where the terminology came from. I just know that that's what it was called. But here, a week ago, before we started this little first podcast, we had to stop and explain what mixed bathing was because it sent him for a loop.
Yeah.
Now, this is a young man, to just show you how deep it goes. I had just done his premarital counseling. And he's looking at me and what did I get into? What have you taught me?
Yeah.
Why would you want to do mixed bathing?
Yeah.
And so we've got a lot of changes from definitions, from even job requirements in the home that are different today than what they were.
Exactly. Well, for that point, we're dealing with a generation, even my generation, I'm much more involved in things going on in the home, and much more involved in different areas of the home. Like, for one, ironing. I know how to use an iron.
Do you have an ironing board?
I do. I do.
Had to ask.
But my wife does it. She does the bed too, which is where Tori, my daughter, got it. But I agree. I was so excited with Jonathan. I know. Probably want to ixnay on the idiot.
We won't. This is priceless.
Yeah, way too. But if there was a day, my Vicky, my wife, she talks about how when her dad was there, there wasn't a whole lot of what we would, in quotes, air quotes, whatever you want to call it, the homemaking. That was not the man's responsibility or job. Mm-hmm. Now, whether that was right or wrong, whatever the case is, we can go into all the definitions, even from the Bible, of the role of the wife and the man, of which we will. But I think the reality comes down to is there are certain things that what we used to die on and maybe plant our cross or things on that was not really what we needed to die on. Don't you think that's the case?
I agree. We ran with opinions, and the way I see it today, even my time, how we were raised is what we try to continue until we found a better way.
Yeah.
And a lot of people aren't looking for a better way. They're happy with just, hey, this is what it was. You knew it before you married me. You knew what it was when I was like, and
boom,
and we'll just keep doing the same thing. And I think this is where it's important that men have to rise up and understand their proper response before God.
Yeah.
I've said this to a lot of men over the years. It's not whether your wife or your kid likes you or loves you or you get along with them. Your goal as a man, you want to hear, "Well done, my good and faithful servant."
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, you can do all the good things, you can be all the evil you want down here, but at the bottom line, the last of it is, are you going to hear, "Well done, my good and faithful servant"? And if you're not living that way, it's going to show.
It is.
And if you are living that way, "Well done, my good and faithful servant," it's going to show.
Yeah.
And I think we have to get back to that. We've ignored some of the biblical principles because we don't agree with it. We don't like this, and there's hypocrites in the church, and I've heard it all.
Yeah.
In fact, it's interesting that here, two basically generations, but two preachers' kids sitting in front of you right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay?
Two preachers' kids.
And I think you can agree with this. And the reason the preacher kids got in so much trouble is because we hang around with the deacons' kids. Yeah. And it was all their fault, not our fault.
Exactly.
Now, I know there's people that disagree with that we were the privileged bunch and we got by with everything.
Yeah, but we're the ones who have the mic, so that's all that matters.
But the bottom line is, I know I didn't get by with a whole lot. No. I was held out for an example and stuff, I remember telling my mom, and I don't want to be an example. If I've got to be an example, where do I resign?
And you know what's cool about that, what you're saying is I think that's what men are saying. Because in reality, the man code and the way it is we are the example. We're the example in our homes. We're the example in all of that. And if we're truly going to be that, because really, who does want to be the example? Even Jesus, when he went to the cross, and he says in the garden, "Let this cup pass from me." He didn't want to be the example or the sacrifice for that. And when you look at, the sacrifice that he made, we as men model that example, that same kind of sacrifice with our wives and our children. Mm-hmm. When it says there to love your wife as Christ loved the church, all of a sudden now, whether it was because we were preachers' kids or because of how we were raised or whatever the case, bottom line, it's because we're men. We are the example. My daughter knows what it looks like to have a gentleman take her out for a date because I took her out for dates. My son knows what it means to stand in with his family and say, "As for me and my house," because he saw me do it. He saw the times where it was discipline and saying, no, you don't act that way, or no, That's not the kind of friendships that you need to have all the way through. And at the same time, embracing them and attaboys and going and having fun.
Right.
And I think that's the big. When you just said that, Steve, I don't want to be the example.
Mm-hmm.
I hear that over and over and over again. Is why do I have to be example? Why can't my wife be? And I think
Right.
there is something to that too, that the wife is too. But for men, what the Bible is there is you're the leader. You are
Right.
the leader of the home, and you are the first line of exampleship. Period.
Right. Because as goes the man, goes the family. And
Exactly.
Statistics have shown that.
Exactly.
And when we think about leadership, Jesus, maybe he didn't want to be the example, but I'll take another take on that, and that is that when he said, okay, Father, I will go down to earth. I will give up everything I've got up here, and I will go down, and I will fulfill your plan on earth. I think he signed up for leadership at that point in time.
Yeah.
Okay. May not knew exactly what was in it. He may good. I mean, they knew what was coming.
Right.
Maybe, all the details. Man, I don't know. But when you're born, you're not born with all the ins and outs of knowing, and environment is part of it, learning is part of it, and you don't sign up for leadership. But if you ignore the spiritual side of life,
Yeah.
then there's nothing to say that you ever have to grow up.
Right. Exactly.
Okay, and so we have a lot of we have a lot of boys in men's bodies today because they've just never grown up.
Yeah.
But when you sign up that I'm going to align myself, my allegiance to Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior, responsibility and leadership now becomes our new nature.
Yep.
And so it's just like Jesus. Yeah, I'll come down here. I had it made. Man, I had it made being immature, playing all my games, sitting on the couch, sleeping until noon, and I didn't have any responsibilities. And now you want me to do what?
Right.
When you sign up for this, especially if you take on a wife,
Yeah.
you've said that I'm going to be a leader.
Yep.
Okay, what does that look like? And that's why I really want to show people what leadership looks like, not just tell them what leadership looks like.
Well, and I think that's so true, Steve, what you said, and it's so important to understand that because we have some very solid examples in the Word of God and in our contemporary life. But when you said something about, that we wanted to be kids when we were boys, Paul was very clear on that. Mm-hmm. When I was young, I did childish things. I had foolish things. I had a young man call me up the other day, and he said, hey, listen, I just wanted you to know I need to repent. I need to say I'm sorry. And he's now in the ministry and a pastor and all of that. And he goes, man, when I was with you and we were together and all this kind of stuff, he says, man, I said a lot of young, dumb things. And he goes, I repent and I'm so sorry. And he goes, I didn't know. I didn't know that I didn't know type of thing, And I just said to him, I said, that's okay. I forgive you. I understand. But maybe it wasn't just dumb things. Maybe it's just young things. Mm-hmm. Because Paul never said that I was this mad. I mean, yes, he was away from God. He ran from God and everything else. But he says, when I was young, I did childish things. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that's all we can do is childish things when we're young. But then he says, when I was old, I put away those childish things. I put away those things. Mm-hmm. He did it. And I think if there's anything that we could do in this thing here is just challenge men. One, to be men, and two, to put away the childish. I don't know about you, Steve, but there's days where I like being the 5-year-old. I like it, I like going out there and just losing myself in the garage or losing myself in my backyard and just doing, where there's just nothing. As who was it? It says, men have this nothing box.
Mark Gungor.
Mark Gungor is just a nothing box. But at the one point, and that's fine, and maybe that's why we have Sabbath at times. But the reality comes down to is that that's not what we were called. We were called to put away the childish things and be the example. It's the man code.
Yeah. Going back to Mark Gungor, you know, men, if you've ever been around and you're sitting there, you're standing there staring out in space, and your wife or somebody comes in, what are you thinking about?
Nothing.
And the answer is nothing.
Yeah.
That drives women nuts.
I know.
They can't take it. See, they don't have a nothing box.
Right.
They want to come into our nothing box, and then it wouldn't be a nothing box.
Exactly.
He talks about his wife. Well, can I come in there? No, you're going to want to hang curtains, and you want to hang pictures, and it's no longer my nothing box. And it's definitely a difference between male and female.
I was talking to Vicky right before this recording, and we were driving everything else, and I was talking to her, and we were talking about something that had happened, and I look over at her, and her mind is going 90 to nothing. And I said, I know you're not in the car with me right now, and you're probably actually going faster than I'm driving in your mind, but you look like you have about 75 thoughts. And of course, we've got a lot of different things coming up, but she was just going crazy. And that is the difference between us. And that's good. I mean, I think that's what this is all about, is to actually say to somebody, how God made you is good. How God made you. How you play out how he made you is what is the issue. Right.
And what we don't understand is, I was thinking about this with, there was a Nobel Peace Prize gotten by a guy named Sperry in 1954 who did work on the male and female brains, the right and the left lobes, the separation, the difference between the two. And he literally found out that, and I forget the amount of weeks, but at such 9 weeks or so, in the male baby, the right side of our brain, a male, is literally, there's a brain wash.
Yeah.
And it literally washes, part of that brain away. And so in reality, women are right and says that we're brain dead. We use the left side of our brain. Yep. And our right side just doesn't function.
Right.
And it's that right side where relationships, and we struggle with relationships. And there's not a man alive that doesn't struggle with some relationships. And so if you think about it, when Adam was created, he was created with a right and left brain without that wash.
Yeah.
When God pulled the rib out of his side, something had to happen in him so that when him and Eve came together, that brainwash started with the first male.
Yeah.
So Adam was the first to have a right and the left brain, and the only.
The only. That's interesting.
If you think about that, we're struggling, and the wives were sent to be complementary.
Yeah.
Okay? And boy, us men like that because we want our wives to compliment us all the time, but that's not the right complementary that we're talking about here. They are to complete us, but to come alongside of us.
Yeah.
And I think that's why God took the rib from the side so that women can walk alongside. I don't know, you've said that time and time again, and I fully subscribe to that theory. He didn't take it from our head, didn't take it from our feet, to be lorded over and walked upon and stuff like this. And this understanding relationships is difficult for men.
Yeah.
And until we mature, I don't think we can literally ever understand the depth that our relationship and our thought on relationship, how it affects other people.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a big deal. So one of the things I want to help men walk through our relationship. Do we do it perfect? No. Are we still doing it? Yes. Are we still willing to learn? Yes. And that's all it takes.
Yeah.
Are you willing to learn? Are you willing to take the journey? This is a process. It's a lifelong journey. And so if you're willing to do that, I think you've found the right place to come on board and let's walk this through together. I know through ManCode, I want to have different speakers. Eventually we'll get to the point where we can take some call-in questions and stuff.
Cool. That'd be cool.
But I want to set up on the website a place where questions can be sent in.
Yep.
And so we will actually make podcasts based on some of the questions that come in.
Oh, yeah.
And there's no topic that's going to be off the table.
Right.
And I know we're doing this through, a lack of any other term, a churchy background. Okay, I don't want this to be church. I want this to be just regular men talking, but
about irons and stools.
Yeah. But I thought you were going to go. You had a perfect time where iron sharpens iron.
Oh yeah, that's what I was supposed to say. I knew there was something I was missing.
Man, I teed it up for him, and he missed it.
I missed it.
Okay, well, so he gets a mulligan on that one.
I'm slow, but I'm worth the wait. Let's put it that way.
So it's just normal conversation. We'll have guest speakers coming in from time to time. You'll see different people, but I want the place you're going to begin to get the information is ManCode.Online. That's going to be our website. That's going to be our online or internet connection to everything. And so we'll be putting more podcasts out. Some will be longer than others, and but anyway, if you have questions, feel free to submit them to the ManCode.Online when that becomes available, and we'll go from there.
And yeah, and I think it's an exciting thing. It's a new era, and it's a new time, and we see a lot of stuff going on there. My son-in-law just recently he was talking and prayed a blessing over his both of his boys. They're born a week apart, but actually 4 years apart, because my youngest grandson turned 1 last week, and my other grandson turned 5, and they're a week apart, so they did the birthdays together. And one of the things he said is there was a minister out there that said to him, or that was preaching, and he says, the world wants you to choose either or. And it says, it says there that the Bible is calling us to be fierce as men and to be tender as men, both. Now the church or the world wants you to choose. Either you be fierce or you be tender. Fierce or tender. You can't be both. And yet he said, and this is what my son-in-law said, I just loved it. He says, I want both my boys to be fierce and to be tender, to be able to raise up and love their wives and to love their children as Christ loves the church. But then he says, but I also want them to wake up not fearing the enemy, but the enemy fearing them.
There you go. I think, that brings up a topic that we could actually discuss. And a lot of people think that meekness is weakness.
Yeah.
And I don't see it that way.
No.
I see meekness, to be meek in the face of adversity and to be the honest part of meekness. It takes strong guts. It takes a man to stand up in the face of adversity and says, "Nope, ain't going to do it.
I'm not going to bow.
I'm not giving in to that." So that's like, with temptations. Yeah. All men are faced with temptation.
Yep.
And I know there's a lot of men out there today that think temptation is a sin. And I'm here to tell you that all men get tempted.
Yep.
But not all temptation turns into sin.
Yeah.
It's when we give in to those temptations. It's when we welcome the temptation. It's when we're expecting the temptation. That's where it becomes the sin part.
Yeah.
There's got to be an action to it. Now, can you put yourself in harm's way where you're being tempted all the time? Yes, you are. And that would be living a life of sin, but you've done things to open up that door.
Yeah.
And so just the fact that you're tempted, I've always looked at it this way. If I'm tempted, that means the devil doesn't have me.
Yeah, that's good.
Because he's not going to tempt people he's already got.
Yep, I like that.
And being owned by the devil or being owned by God is very important to me.
Yeah.
And that's one of the other part as far as a priest, as far as a leader, as far as a husband, as far as
a father,
that owned by God, belonging to God. We say here, you wrote a book, "Today I'm a Child of God." I think that's important to make that proclamation.
Yeah.
But it's more important to live like you're a child of God, where it becomes internalized. And I think it's the internalization that comes from maturing.
Yeah.
And it comes through the college of hard knocks. It comes from going through hard times.
Yeah.
And I'll give you this last example here, that my favorite number is 343. There's a song out there. It talks about 3 going into the fire, and Jesus was seen in the fire, and so how many people went into the fire?
3.
3. How many people were in the fire?
4.
4. How many people came out of the fire?
3.
3.
Yep.
3, 4, 3. So sometimes you have to be in the fire to literally see Jesus.
Yeah. Oh. You know, I might preach that someday. That's pretty good.
I'm not saying taking that to the to the lotteries and that type of stuff and play those numbers,
right.
But I am saying that you can use this to explain to people that hard times are what refine us.
Yeah.
The purest gold comes from the hottest fires.
Yep.
And that's what we want. We want pureness in men. We want to, the purer the gold, the softer the gold too.
Yeah.
So there's got to be some impurities in men. So men, take it from me, you're not going to get perfect. We're not perfect. We don't proclaim to be perfect.
That's right.
And when we mess up, we know what to do about it.
Yep.
We go to our Lord and Savior, we ask for forgiveness, and then we go to the people that we've offended, people that we've hurt, and we ask them for forgiveness.
Yeah.
And it's up to them and whether they forgive. And, I could ask for forgiveness, and I should ask for forgiveness, and I'm hoping that they will do that. But when someone offends us, are we ready to forgive them?
Oh, that's a good question. That's good. That's a whole just offense.
Offense.
In dealing with that. I mean, I deal with.
So dealing with trauma, I want to deal with trauma. I don't, not every trauma has to be turned into a disorder.
No.
You can have post-traumatic stress.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to become PTSD, the disorder.
Yeah.
You don't have to live in that disorder. So we've all faced some of these things, and so we're gonna tackle some of these things. I love the studies of the brains that's happened over the years, that we're seeing stuff that we've never seen before, which part of our brain is affected by this and that and all that stuff. So I can't wait to dig into this and see how we can literally help men. We're living in an area where there's so much confusion. And there's so many voices out there, and I don't want to just be another voice.
Yep.
But I do want to help men navigate today's time using some tried old principles that really work.
Well, and I think, and this is a great thing, maybe even just to end this one out on, is in the Old Testament it talked about where they were going to rebuild the walls because the walls of Jerusalem had been leveled. They're going to build them, and this is what God said. So he says, you build the new gates, build the new walls on the old foundations. And I think that's the biggest thing is what we want to do. And as far as where we get the man code is old foundation.
Yes.
It's not about this newfangled way of doing it or the new man or anything else. It's just taking the old foundation and let's build some new gates. Right. Some new walls that God has for us, but we do it on the foundation. Amen?
Right. This podcast is going to be built on the old foundation, but these are new walls because we didn't have podcasts when I was growing up.
Yeah, no, we didn't.
I couldn't get this type of information at my house.
Right.
In my own time, in the middle of the night when I needed something.
Yeah.
And so today it's available. So stay tuned.
Here we go. Peace.